It's a hard day's late night with Ira. Every night it's feeling alright. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. Why not come over tonight? We talk about everything under the moon. Your favorite cartoon or song you love. You never really know just how it might go. Why don't we get things started? It's a hard day's late night with Ira. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. A hard day's late night with Ira. This week's episode of A Hard Day's Late Night with Ira brought to you by Acme Exterminators. You've got a pest? Now try the best. Acme Exterminators. Let's get to the show, shall we? Come on. Hey, welcome to the second episode of our Ringo-focused discussions. As I mentioned in the previous episode, what I perceive as a shift towards broader respect for Ringo's playing has been brewing for a few years, and in that spirit, I thought it would be fun to discuss him with a few of my drummer friends. This time, we'll be talking to John Perrin and Mike Edison. Let's begin with Mike.
But the question that I'm going to ask you, and I think I'm going to probably ask hundreds of people this question, is simply this: why is Ringo? Now I know you're a Watts guy, and I know Charlie is your man. But in this particular context, I would like you to, and maybe you won't agree with me, but why is Ringo the man? What is it about Ringo that makes him so great?
Well, I think if you'd asked that question to a lot of people 20, 25 years ago,
Yeah.
Why is Ringo the man? And the answer would be John, Paul, and George. But
Sure.
we know that not to be the case, because we know that Ringo, now we've had a moment to take a deep breath and be a little bit more thoughtful about these things, and the cliches about, let's get, I need a band, let's get 3 musicians and a drummer,
Right.
Are over, because when we were kids, we knew, oh, Ringo doesn't do anything I can't do, or nor Charlie Watts, he doesn't do anything, he just keeps the beat,
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah, he's like a metronome back there. It's like, which is ridiculous because every Stone song speeds up, so even that part of it,
Right.
But this idea that drummers like Neil Peart or John Bonham or Keith Moon, who had big sets and flashy sets, and not to mention all those god awful prog rock bands and everything fancy, was kind of, as a drummer, what you were supposed to look up to, and Ringo and Charlie also got short shrift. Those are the days we thought that.
Right.
It's funny, when I got a new set of drums, my first new set of drums since my first set of drums in the mid-late 80s, when I was playing with the Ronchans, right?
Oh, you were a Ronchans drummer. See, I knew Michael. I maybe we met back in those days, because
I had been to lots of Stone shows, but I was in the band Sharky's Machine. That was my band,
right.
And we all knew each other because
I knew Mike, because
Michael Chandler was friends with everybody, of course.
Well, Mike was dating. I think for a while he was dating the keyboard player in the Fuzztones. He was dating Deb O'Neill, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. They were together for a while, and there was definitely whatever. We all bumped up against each other. But I wasn't in the Ronchans until the very end of the '80s. I was, I guess, the third drummer, and it's fun. Well, we had been friends the whole time, since they started the band. I in fact tried to start a band with those guys, but they already sort of had something going, and then I had my own thing going, and we just sort of, we were friends. We were always friends since the very beginning, and they'd been asking me actually for a long time to join the band. And when it became possible, they were like, "Well, it's going to be different this time, Mike. We're going to Japan." And I'm like, "Okay." And I quit my job. Let's go to Japan.
You went to Japan with them?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I did. Yes. I was made in Japan, baby. And then we came back, and we went to Spain, went to France, and then we went to France and Spain. And this time we didn't leave Spain, and we stayed there for a few years, which is its own story, which is all in my book, I Have Fun Everywhere I Go. I'll be glad
I'm
to
going
send
to have
you.
to read that, Mike.
But back to Ringo.
Sorry, back to Ringo, yeah.
And I'm the Stones guy, not the Beatles guy, because I just think the Beatles, frankly, I think their good song to bad song ratio is embarrassing for a band that's canonized.
Yeah.
there's just so many clunky, shitty songs on Beatles records. I like that you do the Hamburg years when they were a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, could they swing in rock and roll.
Yeah.
Very convincing. Very different than the way the Stones did it, though. You know?
Right. Oh, totally different.
Definitely. I mean, they're a great rock and roll band, but definitely a much different approach. A lot of harmonies.
Well, they were
and
coming.
stuff.
I mean, the Stones were obviously coming from more of a blues background than the
Right.
Beatles were.
And right, you know, I can tell you, I teach music these days. I teach at Bethel Woods Center for the Arts near here,
Nice.
I
Fun.
tell him some kid yesterday. He goes, I don't like country music. I grabbed him. I'm not really allowed to grab him, but I grabbed him with my eyes and my soul, and you know. And I said, look, you don't ever say I hate country music again in this class. You like the Beatles, don't you? How do you think they started? You know, by playing Buck Owens songs and playing Carl Perkins songs, right? You think there's any difference? And if you ever watch that Beatles documentary when they're in the studio, every time they have a break, what are they doing? They're playing a Hank Williams song or a Buddy Holly song, right? And how about tell me you like Led Zeppelin? You don't think they're a country band? You don't think the Rolling Stones are a country band? So, kiddo, don't tell me you don't like country music. Not in this class ever again.
Yeah, they were shot through. Ringo was a tremendous. Ringo was about to move to Texas.
They loved country music. They all did.
Yeah.
They loved all those Sun records. They loved Elvis.
Yeah.
You know, and Cochran, just like Led Zeppelin did. It just and they loved Stax Vault too. It just comes out different side. I mean, the Beatles kind of had this very friendly, jangly way of playing Chuck Berry, and the Rolling Stones sounded like they were going to kill you. And I preferred the latter. You know, when the Beatles play Roll Over Beethoven, it's not the same as the Stones playing like Carol or whatever. It's
they're more menacing. The Stones were more menacing, absolutely.
The Beatles sounds like a kid's birthday party. The Rolling Stones sound like a gang fight.
Right. That's absolutely true. Listen, I cannot disagree.
You know, and that's it. And it's perfect because that's the way it's supposed to be. These guys, wear little short collarless things with ties. And these guys haven't taken a shower in 2 weeks. And
they played that, and they played that hard. I mean, they knew.
Sure. But there's a reason why the Rolling Stones wrote "Give Me Shelter" and the Beatles wrote "Hey Jude." You know, I mean. Now, but back to Ringo, who is a wonderful, great drummer with incredible feel, and ability to get along in this thing. And of course, I think everybody knows now that we've deconstructed it so much. He's a left-handed guy playing on a right-hand kit, and some of these nice fills come out a little backwards and weird and subtle, and they're hard to copy. But the vibe is there. His tempos are amazing. His feel is great.
Unbelievable.
The pulse is really, really strong. I think he definitely benefited from George Martin knew how to do it. I love at the end of that Let It Be, the Get Back documentary. He's got the towels on the drums, but there's so much tape delay on those drums. It's really become a sound and a feel, and try to play. I think Let It Be is the great underrated Beatles record. And if you listen to like I Got a Feeling, those fills are amazing. And there's I Dig a Pony. There's one where it's like, dude, there's another fill. It's like very difficult to copy. Yeah. And he does it the same way every time. So he's not fucking it up. He intends to do it. Like really tricky and cool stuff. Very, very cool vibe. Yeah. But here's something. When I'm researching the Charlie Watts book and just sort of looking under every rock, and some is obvious and maybe not so much, but there's a record where both Charlie Watts and Ringo are on the same record.
Is that right? Which one is that?
I guess it's Leon Russell's first record. I have to check. It's a Leon Russell record, and you could sort of check them playing with the same kind of guys, and some of the Stones are on there because Leon Russell knew everybody and stuff, and it's real interesting, to hear that. Now there's another record too where they're both on, and that's the Howlin' Wolf London sessions. And Ringo shows up for the first days and does a couple songs, one or two that end up on the record, and then Charlie plays the rest of it, and you can really tell the difference because Ringo is playing it kind of funky and fat, and it doesn't really fit exactly this sort of Chicago blues thing that they're doing.
It's not greasy enough.
Yeah, and then Charlie Watts plays it, and it's like, bingo, you found this. And it's interesting just to say. Listen, Ringo's the thing. I think the question really is, could the Beatles have done it without Ringo? Would it have been the same? The same question is, could the Stones have done it without Charlie? Once again, back to Ringo, the question is never supposed to be who's the best drummer in the world, which is what idiot high school jock musicians ask. The question is, it doesn't matter who's the best drummer in the world. Of course, Paul McCartney famously said Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
He didn't say that. He did not say that.
Or maybe that's apocrypha.
No, that was a stand-up comic actually who said that. It's been widely attributed to John, but John never said it.
Right.
It's a funny thing to say, but it's no.
I knew it was
apocryphal.
Never said it.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, Ringo he only needs to be the best drummer in the Beatles, and Charlie only needs to be the best drummer in the Stones. And if you believe that the Rolling Stones were, even for a moment or two, the greatest rock and roll band in the world, then for that moment or two, Charlie Watts was definitely the greatest rock and roll drummer in the world. So Ringo's got this thing, but it's not as pronounced as John Bonham or Keith Moon, the guys you talk to, who stomp on everything in front of them, and probably John Bonham and really make their bands. I mean, as much as Ringo and Charlie do, but in a much different way.
Rock drummers started to really lean heavily. I mean, rock in the broadest sense, rock music became much more hard eighths, hard sixteenths as the 60s and 70s progressed, and rock and roll was really based on the shuffles for the most part. It was very shuffly, and like Chuck Berry would combine straight eighths and shuffles. That was rock and roll. The sort of the beating between someone playing gung 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 and someone else going gung 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 gung. That's rock and roll right there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to speak later tomorrow with my friend John Perrin, who's the drummer in NRBQ these days, who are one of the best bands, and he's really good at it too. He's got
great band. They understand everything. The NRBQ guys, they're masters of it. Well, I think it had more to do actually with Little Richard than Chuck Berry.
Well, the piano players played. It was easy for the piano players to play a hard eighth, where guitar players naturally had a bit of shuffle in their playing because of the way you play the guitar. But piano players could really pound out hard eighth notes.
And I totally address this too in the book, and that shift of drumming the shuffle out of it, drumming the syncopation out of it. And the Beatles, and Ringo was good at it. I think you're hearing more Earl Palmer with him than you are, as an influence than Charlie Watts, especially in those early years with the hi-hats open. And that great place between the shuffle and the straight ahead rock and roll. Because when they're playing Little Richard, I think the Beatles are covering Little Richard. That's kind of what they're getting to, and there's a big swooshy sound of keeping it open. And that's really a thing, because Earl Palmer said, I couldn't play the shuffle fast enough with Little Richard. And that's sort of how it morphed. That was like kind of like a necessity, because the way he was playing, da 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 da, I couldn't go da 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 da. It was just not possible. And this is the way it came out. And there's that beautiful place in between, it's just amazing there. And that's feel, and Ringo definitely had that feel. And it's swing. I mean, those records do swing. And
but Ringo's swing was a very specific, like, I feel there was in the broadest sense, like, Ringo's feel was very, I think there was a lot of their great slow motion feels, that sort of, I am he, is you're he, these kind of mid-tempo things that they did. You could almost always imagine that there was a string section going chink, 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 chink. There was a kind of a English polite precision about Ringo's mid-tempo and slow beats that didn't always translate. I remember listening to, didn't they play on like an early James Taylor record? They played, the Beatles played some, I have a feeling the Beatles played some background stuff on some early stuff that he then re-recorded later. And they sound wrong to have this very English feel against James, who was very American. It seemed really odd to me.
He has a real pulse.
Yeah.
And do like come together. Obviously, is a very famous thing. But these are great parts, and they slow it down. And listen, and I always tell my kids this too. The kids I teach, it's harder to play slow than it is to play fast.
Absolutely.
This is something that like no one's going to tell you, unless I tell it to you right now. It's harder to play slow than it is to play fast, because you're just going to always want to speed up. You're always going to want to push it, and to lay back, to keep it in the pocket. Is really a cool place to be, and Ringo had that, and Charlie could do it. And but again, the Stones records all speed up, but like a little bit here in the chorus, a little bit here during the solo, they push and pull.
Sure, it's human. It's only human, of course.
Well, of course, it's human. That's part of it. I think when you're hearing Ringo on those early records, you're more Earl Palmer, and it's sort of like a function of like playing rock and roll at that tempo, at that kind of, with brio. That it's not the shuffle beat. Like, listen to Johnny Be Good. I mean, people forget this, because it comes down to any wedding band these days plays it like a straight rock song, and it's not. If you hear the record, it really is it's Fred Below. It's in a full shuffle on that. It's not even in between. It's a shuffle. These guys are jazz drummers. Don't forget, there was no precedent before this. There was nothing. And even the Beatles in that era, they came up on big band music, and later became skiffle music, and of course they had some folk music and stuff. But it wasn't like they had other rock and roll, white rock and roll bands from which to learn. They learned from Richard records, and Chuck Berry and Carl Perkins records, and and all sorts of stuff, contemporary pop music. But they hadn't when they were started playing, it was the late 50s. There was no precedent for what they were doing. At least not widespread. There were other people up to the same thing, of course, but it wasn't like now, or even when we were growing up.
Yeah.
So I think Ringo got it kind of right with the All Star Band in a way. He figured out a way to like go out and have fun and keep a show on the road without having to challenge himself to like make another great piece of art every time he wanted to play. And he invited his friends.
No, I don't bemoan him the fact. I know you're a drummer. You just want to be in the band, and that's a great opportunity for being in the band.
What I think was. I mean, listen, when he had Rick Danko and Dr. John in the band, it was definitely more interesting than lineup. But I think he got to kind of figure it out in a way.
Yeah. No, I don't begrudge him that at all. I just
think he could be a great entertainer and be Ringo. No, I begrudge him anything.
Well, we're having the same problem with this Beatles single, is that it's overproduced. It sounds very weird. The drums are. I noticed the first thing that the drums are, when you hear it, the drums are incredibly loud in this mix. It's very strange. And it's a very strange production. I don't want to lead, because it's very disconcertingly not good.
Poor gentleman, poor guy. Let him rest.
And oddly, they just used a verse. There was one beautiful verse melody. John's voice, again, really hauntingly beautiful. But the song is really, they added I think Paul wrote a bridge, though the original demo had a bridge that they did not use for some reason. So what you do here is the same verse 3 times. It's very repetitive and weird. And then Paul does a Harrison-esque slide solo. But believe it or not, Paul, as talented as he is, cannot do a proper George Harrison slide solo. That's not an easy thing to do. And he doesn't do it very well.
And Paul McCartney is such an amazing musician. I watched the Rick Rubin documentary special, extended interview with Paul McCartney, and I don't love every single thing that Paul's plays. A lot of that icky pop music I don't like, and some of this kind of like sticky love songs. But man, he is so incredibly a good musician. I mean, when he sits down at the piano, he understands every trick there is to songwriting, everything. He knows every inversion and every trick and how to flip a song and formulate a song. And he's learned so much from George Martin, and he's learned so much from listening to Tin Pan Alley records and just like music hall records and the history of rock and roll, because in his heart of heart, he loves Bob Holly, more than anything. Yeah. And he can, and it's amazing. He is like, I mean, it's like,
and then there's a song. Yeah, it's amazing. His intuition about, like, you have these recordings where he's like, I just start with this. I might start with one chord and just like build it out like an artist, like Picasso would start with a squishy line, and then suddenly it was a bull and a thing. You start with something, and then it's suddenly 10 minutes later it's a thing. He doesn't fuss over it. He just lets it happen. It's a kind of a Zen flow that he gets.
Part of that, but he's got the tools of the Zen flow.
Why Ringo is an interesting, unusual drummer. And I think that's really all. That's all I really wanted to get out of you.
Well, he's the pulse, and he understood what they were doing. I think there has to be a simpatico between the drummer and the band, that he really gets. He's not a session dude. He's a guy that's part of the band.
Yeah. Well, I talk about something I call the Tao of Ringo, which is the idea that you don't need to be a virtuoso player. You just need to be a musically sympathetic player.
The V word, there's that whole chapter. Look, it's called the V word. Okay, virtuoso is the most misunderstood concept of all time, because just because you can play a lot of notes doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And I think I'm the first person who's ever called the Ramones virtuosos. It's this. It's really hard to play that music.
Yeah, it's not easy.
We know a million bands that have tried to play in that style, and only a couple of them are really capable of doing it convincingly. And we've all seen back punk rock bands, and then when you see the Ramones do it, so sharp, so precise.
Oh my God, it's scary.
It's like, wow, this is not easy to play, and it swings. It doesn't swing like dotted eighth notes. There's no dotted eighth notes in that music at all. There's no triplets in the Ramones. Okay, but the sense of forward propulsion, is there. Like I say, AC/DC swings like crazy. That's one of the reasons why it works so well, because that sense of it's not rock, it's roll. The roll is so prevalent in this, and the equation that's always going to be the more important thing, And then you get the new Stones record, which is all rock and no roll, which is the reason we liked them in the first place.
Right.
Now they were called the Rolling Stones, not the Rocking Stones. They changed their fucking name.
Exactly. All right. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we've covered the bases.
It's been a pleasure. Glad to talk to you.
Well, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for being the first. I have 2 more later in the day. I'm going to talk to tonight. I talked to my friend Pat Spurgeon, who is the drummer in Rogue Wave, an old friend of mine, and my friend Steve Coulter, who was a drummer in L.A. So yeah, I'm talking to my friend Eric Fidel, who's the drummer in a Beatles. He plays in the Fab Four,
right.
big Beatles cover band. So I want to get his take on Ringo. And I'm speaking with my friend Mike Musburger, who is a great drummer from Seattle, who now works. He's in Ringo's crew. He's out on the road. He actually does the teleprompters for Ringo's show, but he's also a fabulous drummer, and I want to get his Ringo insights from.
So is this your first episode? Have you edited this before?
This is going to be this is I think episode 3. I've done I did one episode about Danceteria. I've done one episode about my relationship with the Smithereens, and this is my third one. So I haven't released the first 2 yet. We're still editing, so it's kind of early on in the project.
You're getting it together, okay?
Yeah. So so I won't be on anytime soon. But I'm still in the editing. We're still kind of figuring out how to do it, how to format it, and so forth.
Okay, good. Yeah, remind people if you can, to buy my.
Plug something. Plug some stuff. The book, absolutely. I'll plug Sympathy for the Drummer. What else? What are the other ones?
Well, Sympathy for the Drummer is my most recent book about Charlie Watts, and written before he died, not like the cynical official version, which is bullshit. Frankly, it's like I wrote a book long before his demise, and it was because of love. I was even told not to write it by a couple of people in the publishing industry. They said they won't be interested in it,
Yeah.
And I said, I'm just going to write the book that's in my heart, because if it stays here, it'll metastasize, and I'm going to die with,
I'm actually inspired by it. I was actually thinking that I should maybe do something along the same lines for Ringo, perhaps, I don't know. I'm debating it.
People have asked me, who's next, and I don't think the approach really works. I mean, for that many people, Charlie Watts is very unique, and I think Ringo definitely fits it. But I feel like that conversation has been had more often.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. It's an old conversation, but it's an
reminder though. But a reminder to everyone, though, this is my first book, and I have fun everywhere I go. It's my first book, and there's a lot of sex and drugs and rock and roll there, and it has a lot to do with coming up in the East Village and punk rock bands before the internet, and there are a few others, and you can find me and my music and everything else at MikeEdison.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike Edison. You are without question, and I knew coming in, you'd be a great guy to interview on this topic.
It's my extreme pleasure.
Yeah,
all right, and drummers are cut from a different cloth.
Yeah, man.
We're a race apart.
Right on, brother. Right on.
All right, Pete.
Well, have a great afternoon, my friend. Many thanks to Mike Edison for his time and insight. Now let's move on to John Perrin. Now we get to the main question. This is the question that I've been asking, and I'm going to ask you the question because you have so many ways to look at this, and we could probably talk for another 2 hours about this, but it's a very direct question. Why simply is Ringo the man? Yeah. Why is Ringo? What's all this Ringo business about?
Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, there's so many potential ways to get at this question. So, what comes to your head?
He seems the least concerned about bullshit.
Yeah.
I have this theory where, like, I don't know, it's not, there's no right or wrong.
There's never, it's just all the way you feel.
I have this personal thing with music where, like, I feel like the more concerned I am with the bullshit, the worse music is. And it's just like, I mentioned this earlier this week too to somebody, like, me and some of, like, the other NRBQ guys have this theory that you play better when you're sick, because you'll make kind of more simplified choices because you're not concerned with, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this.
Right. You're specifically keeping it simple to sort of consolidate your energy a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like that's actually the Ringo question is really hard to answer, just because it's like those 4 guys, like, in their teens, they're completely formed musical identities.
Yeah.
And, like, with sheer confidence, whether they actually were confident or not, like, so much of music is confidence or faking confidence.
Yeah, it could be either way. Faking confidence reads as confidence if you do it correctly. Yeah. Yeah. But, all those guys, they played a lot. Ringo, he had confidence because he worked constantly, because he was good enough. He was already in, like, this great band, right? He was with that playing with Rory Storm, which was a show band, which is like, it was like mock show. They had to put on a show. He had to sing. They had to get drunk people to dance. Like they were a bar band that had to get people up and moving every night, and that was his skill set. He knew how to get a dance floor full of people up off the floor. He could motivate the band and motivate an audience. He had that skill in spades.
It's funny because this kind of ties into this thing that I've been thinking about recently. That like I'd be curious what you actually think about it too. Where like, you know, using that knowledge of like by the time those guys made it to Sullivan, they had spent hours upon hours upon hours upon hours playing with each other, playing with other people, just getting to be musicians.
No, they did their
And
homework.
it's like it at least I've hit the point now through like all the records I've made, with the studio work I've done, with the amount of shows I've played, where it's like it's way more of a relaxed process to me, like making a record or like playing shows. There's way less stress upon myself about like having to get it right. And there's something that kind of comes from that calm, you know? Like it's just like the idea of like, I don't stress about things nearly as much as I did when it was the 10th record I was taking apart and making.
Yeah.
But like, I almost wonder if there's something like that too, but you know, it's something that I think about all the time, is just like really serving a song.
Yeah.
And how great can you make like a, you know, a really simple drum fill or drum fill
feel. Yeah. Feel.
That,
yeah, no, he was really, yeah.
You just asked me a question I'm going to be like not able to sleep over. I'm going to be thinking about this in 6 hours.
Yeah, no, there's so many aspects to his simple, you know, he's totally undervalued. He for years he got such flack, and always, you know, you had to defend him. But he still is amazing. His simplicity, his simple musicality is still, you know, you watch it, everyone comments on it in Get Back. You know, like he's always on, you know, he had some good days and he came in some days like, I'll be honest with you, I don't feel too well, you know. He was on it, you know, he was an alcoholic, you know, he always was an alcoholic. So he would be out, but man, he sat there all day, and when they needed him, he came right in. And, you know, if the party was going to get going, it was because Ringo was he had something going. Ringo, you know, hit that backbeat, and they were off.
It's weird because I would like to think, who knows, especially knowing that about him and like his partying ways back then. But it's like, I always like to believe that the music that really gets me is the stuff that's the most sincere. And that can mean just like when you hear a band, that's what NRBQ is trying to do all the time. And it's the only way we can be NRBQ is if all four of us are completely focused in.
Right.
And that's the show will not work if we're not doing that. And so it's like,
it's got to be, you have to be absolutely present, or it's not gonna work.
Oh my God. Like, I mean, you know, Terry will play a chord voicing on the piano, and I have to know what chord that is to start the next
Right. So you have to have a great, every night you have to, that's the beauty of sound check. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, yeah, man, it's just like total taste. And yeah, he's the best drummer for so many reasons, and there's still so many reasons why he's so great that people don't pay attention to.
Yeah.
So unique. Yeah. You can tell it's him. He's not audibly freaking out about a tempo. Like if you ever like, that's kind of the funny thing about some of the Beatle bands that are out there now. They will make click maps.
Yeah, it's really disconcerting a little bit.
And it's like, I can understand why some people would want to do that. It's like to some people they want to treat it like a Broadway show or whatever. But gosh, that's like one reason they're so great. It's like everything is so loose. And
they were okay with being spontaneous. I come from this sort of bridge generation where the music I listened to in the 70s, and then as a drummer in the 80s, things shifted over, and you had to be a little more metronomic. There was a lot more metronomic awareness. And then, the rise of clicks and drum machines and so forth. And so drummers became much more click aware and not click adverse. And so, over the years, I've, learned to become friends with the click, and you come to rely on the click to some degree, because it can be, if you get comfortable enough with it, you're kind of happy that it's there, sort of guiding you through.
You don't have to think
and you're not going
to,
fly off. And, so but at the same time, you develop a sort of sense of your own sense of forward motion in a song, and you learn to trust yourself and go, listen, like Ringo, like I'm the metronome. Listen, I might not stay at exactly the same number, you know, you can't do it. But but that's the spontaneous thing. So I'm trying to get back to that idea too, get away from playing to a click, which has sort of become a comfort thing for me, and trust myself more to sort of just let it be, as they say.
Exactly. And that's like it comes down to a band dynamic too, because then once people start, it's like, it's kind of a famous thing that drummers are going to get picked apart for speeding up or slowing down. And in the reality of it all, nobody is a human metronome.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to music, there's not a little, beeper in my head making sure it's click. I'm wanting to feel something. I want the music to feel good. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it doesn't be perfect. It just has to feel good. That's not necessarily the same thing.
There's a great Chicago drummer named Alex Hall, who's a really good friend of mine. He produced some of the Jaden McPherson stuff, he engineered it. Give me something like that. But Alex, I was at his studio recently, and we were on this topic because I don't know if you've dealt with this. It's like you'll be playing a show, blood pressure's going up, and you're excited, and then you might listen to your board mix 2 days later, and you're like, I'm playing that 20 BPM faster than the
right. Yeah. Sometimes, these things happen where you sort of.
And I was talking to Alex, and I was just like, dude, how that's better for me. And I think tons of drummers are really hard on themselves with that. He's like, so how do you deal with that? He's like, well, you were in a room that was probably inevitably getting heated, like it's warm from the bodies in the room. There's energy passing between you and the crowd. Nobody's sitting there thinking like, oh, this is way too fast. Nobody is thinking about that at all.
Yeah.
Everybody's feeling the energy that's being passed by you.
Yeah.
And I think like it with musicians, specifically my age around Chicago, like super common for bands to be using clicks now on stage, which is like totally fine. I've done it. And it's pretty nice to align it. But it's like, man, be able to feel that it's okay to do the other thing.
Yeah.
Like embrace the human element.
Yeah.
And it's like, to make this full circle, it's like that's really what a lot of Ringo's playing is about for me, is the human element.
Yeah.
It's like feel, man.
I think what's also happened is that because I do a lot of stuff remotely, if you're going to build a track, and if you don't get the luxury of sort of all recording together in the same room, if you're building a track, you kind of it's easier to have a click, so other people, I don't know, sometimes that makes it easier to put stuff on later, to edit and put, right. And who knows what you're going to put on there? Might be keyboards or horns or strings. So the more things are delineated from the beginning, the easier. That's kind of the Jeff Lynne paradigm, right? To get it a really serious line of intention, put everything on the grid, everything will be very, iron it out. So that's that way of making music. And, but there's another way.
Oh yeah, it's really funny. Like, this is very timely for me. Like, I just started this new band in Chicago. My fiance had been making music for a long time, and during the pandemic, we just started recording stuff together. Yeah. She met a friend to write with, and we recorded some drum tracks, probably like 2 years ago or so. And I recorded them in Click. They had some demos, and I started doing self-recording. So I recorded these things to Click, thinking we'll add everything later, right? And so it's this band we started called Winona Driver. And so literally like a year and a half later, we went and did some bass to them, and they sound great. My friend Alex mixed them, and it's like, yeah, this sounds like a song. It's like it's a cool rock song. It's fucking great. And then we got in a room and played as a band. Yeah. And then it was just like, whoa, like going from me playing to a click alone to like a rough guitar demo to like 4 people in a very small hot room exchanging energy.
Yeah.
Like, and it made me think like, oh, we need to like re-record everything. Like, this is too fun to not get this.
Yeah. What a great, it's like a superpower. It's like being Superman. Like you take something very small and give it all this energy and electricity and
and it's like when you think about that, it's like, man, think about how fun it would have been to be any one of the Beatles, to like look around and like they're like, oh my god,
how much fun are we having?
It's all like, and that's something scary in a lot of music for me, is like there's a lot of music I hear that doesn't have a ton of the human element.
No, there's a lot of modern production is very, very inorganic. It's very hard to find anything that sounds organic. Even nice singing voice is the most organic thing, and everything else sounds very ironed out in a way that's. I mostly find it difficult to listen to. I find it hard to hear through just production style. I'm sure there's a great song there, but I have to fight to get to it.
Dude, yeah, I mean, it's funny, even with drums, it's like, that's a perfect snare drum being hit perfectly in the center of the head for 4 minutes. Like, that's great.
Da 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 dum.
Yeah, exactly.
Da 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 da. I mean, that was actually a pretty good sounding snare drum, there's an ironed out kind of machined out quality to a lot of things, even things that have a lot of levels and bits and pieces. Modern production.
I'm actively on behalf of the Beatles campaigning to bring back the human element.
Yeah, no, I think it's time for rebirth. I'm really committed. Like I was thinking about this earlier, how the next batch of recordings I want to do, I just want to do it off the grid. Isn't like whatever Logic has a sort of a no click mode where you can just record, and there's no underlying thing. I guess you could put it on later or something, but I want to try to do some recordings just completely freehand and just like go on my own instincts and
Oh yeah. One of that Alex was telling me. That's what I was gonna say. Alex was telling me about this. There's that old Fats Domino tune called "My Blue Heaven."
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Massive hit for him, and he was just working up in the studio one day and like had thrown that on, and he didn't realize he had the repeat one song mode on Spotify.
Yeah.
It's "My Blue Heaven," gets to the end and restarts.
Yeah.
And I dare anybody to go on Spotify, listen to "My Blue Heaven," listen to like the 10-second mark.
Yeah.
And then listen to like 20 seconds before it's out.
Yeah.
It's like
spot on.
Accelerated.
It's
way faster. So by the point Alex got to the end of the song, it's like got this crazy pump and tempo, and it restarts. It's like a whole other song.
Yeah, right. It has a whole nother character by the end.
Everybody in the United States,
no one was bothered that "Lust for Life" starts at 100 and this and goes up 25. I don't know. It really takes off by the end, but that's one of the magic parts of that song.
Talk about a feel on that.
That big sort of, it was like "You Can't Hurry Love," sort of soul Motown thing on steroids, because he's also playing on a big band kit in a Bonham-esque kind of way, so you have all these, a big band plus Motown kind of, ka-bang, bang, bang, that huge kicking 26-inch bass drum coughing it out. And he's playing mad. By the end, he's playing this wonderful mad off-kilter boom, boom, boom. He's really sort of kicking out these accents left and right, and they're just like, they get more wired up as they go, and what a thrill ride that song is every time.
Dude, and how amazing is that too? Like, I will never hear that song and not feel a certain way after the first 4 bars. Like, how amazing is it to do that with a music?
No, that song really is like being alive. To me, that's like one of those songs like, oh, I'm still alive, because that song does that same thing to me. Like I was 17, like that feel. That's like it's like a distillation of what it's like to be alive. This sort of feeling of like, bring it on.
Dude,
I've seen it. I've been there, done that. I've had sex with weird people. I've done all kinds of fucking drugs. I've done all the wrong things. I got my sex machine and my torture film. Like, what me worry? Like, it's so out there. It's so wonderfully out there. I love, that's like hypnotizing chickens. Like, it's the most whatever, man. That song just like, it's such a kick in the teeth. It's so wonderful every time.
I always talk. Inevitably, like at times being a musician can become really discouraging, but then you hear something like that. And I was making a playlist, and I was talking to the bass player in that Ringo band, where there's certain things that if I hear a specific song when I'm really feeling like, oh gosh, how did I end up without a tour for 2 months or whatever? I'm sitting around not making music. And it's usually like "Lust for Life" is one. Yeah. Off Wiedersehen or "Hello Kitties" by Cheap Trick.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Pretty much any.
Off Wiedersehen came to me the other day because I was feeling kind of down and out, and there's that he borrows it from Dylan. Like, there are many here among us.
Yeah.
Who feel their life is a joke. And you get that in there. I think that might be the first time I didn't really know that reference was from Dylan. Probably when I first heard it, I think it was only years later that I realized I thought it was Hendrix, and then I realized it was Hendrix by way of Dylan. I got it all. I got it all backwards. But yeah, that there's something.
It's like, I'm sure it's the same with you, because it's like, the other funny thing is like the age thing, where it's like for me and the musicians I'm friends with and I love, there is no age gap. Like Terry Adams from NRBQ is 75 years old. Yeah. I'm 31.
Yeah.
There's no age gap.
No, I feel like the music we talk about, and we happen to love the same music from the same period. This sort of the classic rock period from the from the Elvis period through the 70s, 80s. That's a very fertile period, and like there's so much there for a student of music to assimilate. Like I'm a fan of the 70s in particular, and I feel like I've just scratched the surface. Like finding new records by new artists I didn't know, and references to other things. Like it's an endless, deep well of stuff.
Absolutely, and it's amazing that it's like, everybody can go through periods of being down, but it's like when you hear that right song, that specific song, like if I'm bummed out and I hear Auf Wiedersehen, it's like, no, this all makes sense. Like, no, this is what I have to do. Like this song is the thing that made me want to give up doing anything else with my life.
Yeah,
and all I need to do is hear that 2 minutes. Like, nope, I'm good.
It's like that shuffle too. There's something about the shuffle. I'm a big fan. That's why I love rock and roll, because I love, like for example, I love like boogie woogie piano playing. Fats Domino, but all the Albert Ammons and all those like early boogie woogie piano players. That to me is like really pure rock and roll, because it's wordless mostly, but it's all this sort of very very gymnastic rhythm section, like big band with one hand, and the sort of acrobatic, syncopated, it's very super percussive, it's about as percussive as you can be on which it is a percussion instrument, obviously, but the acrobatic percussive instrument, at its peak as with the boogie woogie piano players, and that whole feel, that rolling kind of, that eight to the bar, boogie woogie. To me, that's always the most foundational thing. That Chuck Berry, that feel, that train track, whatever the fuck it is, that is like that's such a core rhythm in my heart. Like to express it through music, through shuffles, boogies, however I can get it in there. And if you can kind of and that's the great thing, if you kind of sneak it in, if something's dead straight and you kind of sneak it in there, that's when it really counts.
Dude, it's funny. Like Terry always says, like he's a member of the percussion section.
Yeah.
And,
oh, absolutely. He's a prime example of a great percussive, musical, but percussive player at the same time. And that's a very percussive instrument. The clavinet is super percussive.
But he's just it's like anytime anybody asks me about that, I have to say that it's like being able to play with those guys is the most amazing thing.
No, but when I think about Terry Adams alone, the genius of that, that sort of cornered the market on wherever the fuck that is, that sexy clavinet sound, which obviously other artists use in different contexts, it's a core reggae sound and so forth. But so it has a wonderful, Stevie Wonder used it quite handily on a lot of his classic, Superstition and so forth. So it's a very naturally funky instrument. So it's got some natural funk to it, but with the sustain of a guitar amp, it sings.
Oh yeah.
He gets this wide range, and because of his love of things that are out there, he doesn't mind making a whole shitload of noise. So he combines all these great old traditions and and this sort of modern sense of whatever punk rock kind of fuck you in there. It's a like he distills all that stuff so easily, so deeply musical. I can't imagine playing with that guy every night. What a treat.
He's the greatest, man. I mean, it's funny, like the things. Like one of the things that him and I really, really bonded over is we're both massive Link Ray fans. Like Link Ray is so much, and it's just like, and it's like the same thing as you and I. It's like you meet somebody who understands, and that's like the most exciting thing in the world. Like to like have those bonds, because inevitably, like we were all nerds with record collections.
Yeah.
And every time you meet another nerd, it's awesome.
Like, yeah. No, it's a family affair, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, it's a good feeling to sort of play with simpatico musicians who really are communicating on that other level. You know, you know, you don't have to say much. You just, yeah.
I was gonna say I gotta see your Beatle band, man.
Oh man, we have a show coming up in December, a rare show in Brooklyn at the Union Pool, which is a great cavern club, like, you know, small proscenium stage, perfect size room. You couldn't get more than 300 people in that room, I don't think. So it's a perfect size for a Beatles cover band. So just before Christmas. So I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm already doing my homework, and I just wanted to. I don't know why I grabbed these in the break. I have that, and
yes,
and I have I wear Ramones shirts that don't say the Ramones, but I have a Tommy.
Yes.
I have a Tommy Ramone shirt, which is one of my prized things. I just wanted to show. Yeah, and what's the other one? Oh, I have this. You know, I can't wear that Ramones logo shirt because everyone wears that. But I will wear like punk rock 1974 Queens.
That says enough.
Yeah, it's in Forest Hills. You know, I'm saying Ramones without saying, you know, Johnny, Joey, Dee Dee with the eagle. I can't stand. I can't be like the crowd. I can't be like that.
I need to show you this now. Somebody gave this to me on Instagram.
Okay. Right there. I'm not going anywhere. We're to show off our T-shirt collection. I love it.
All right, so I didn't even know this existed.
Oh, I like this already.
So we played in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And he came up and handed me this.
What the?
It is a promotional rock pile second.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's the rock pile cover. Oh, you've got to be kidding me!
How insane is that?
You've got to be kidding me! A promotional rock pile alarm clock.
Alarm clock. I was like, man, why the '70s were way cooler.
Wow, that's a fantastic collectible tchotchke of the highest order. That's fantastic.
I know. So, did you guys ever do like cool promo items?
Nah, not a surf. No.
Like
we never went out of our way to do kitschy, fun things like that. Sadly, we would laugh about, you know, not a surf panties or whatever, which was we would never get past all the censors in our group. But no, we toy with that. No, we stick to like the basic, you know, indie rock T-shirts and tote bags, and we did do oddball, like we did sort of cup, you know, metal cups and notebooks, and we did sort of nerdy stuff like that. But never that's really pretty kinchy, man. I'll take that. That's pretty high end.
You could probably, some of the collectible stuff I got into, collecting records, tapes.
Yeah, no, you have quite a collection. I'm trying to cut my collection down. I'm in the middle of trying to sort of Swedish death, whatever they call it. You know, trying to get my life down to a more reasonable. I got to cut out a bunch of stuff I don't absolutely need. I have a pile of Beatles records. I have about 60 or 70 Beatles records that I don't need any, that I'm jettisoning from the collection. They're just doubles or things I don't like, a stereo version of something I don't want a stereo version of, or something like that. So I'm getting rid of a bunch of stuff.
Dude, did you ever get into international Beatle records?
Which ones?
Like international releases. Like when we used
No,
to
I don't really. I have a handful of international Beatles releases, but that's not really. My collection is very, very, very simple. I do have some of those things, but I don't collect them by definition. I have a reprint of an Italian version of Help called Aiuto! Exclamation point.
This is literally my favorite Beatle record that I own.
Oh, what is that one?
Wild cover. It's
in Estéreo is from Spain.
Mexico.
Volume 3.
On Estéreo. The first track is El Diablo en su Corazón, Devil in Her Heart.
Ah, yes, of course. That's fantastic.
How cool of an opening.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite Beatle moments. The sound of the drums, beautiful there. Oh, I love that. That was one of those early like 2 microphone recordings.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. Yeah, overhead and a kick mic.
It's the really weird stereo where it's like vocals are one side and all instruments.
Yeah. Oh, hilarious. So, I don't know. I have an interesting collection. I don't know which one. If I had to pick a favorite one, I have so many. I don't collect too many weird ones. Mine are really on the, like, I collect, like, you know, all the American ones, all the British ones, you know, one of each, well, kind of basically one of each, a stereo, a mono. Yeah. But I have only mono before Pepper. I can't listen to early ones in stereo. I'm one of those guys. Yeah. But I don't know. I have some interesting, picture discs. I have got, colored vinyl stuff. some splatter vinyl. What's the weirdest one I have? I don't have a lot of weird ones. I have a very completist collection. Like I got one of everything that you need to hear, all the singles, all the box sets, all the reissues. And, so I'm excited about the new. Have you heard the new song? We have like another 2 minutes left. Have you heard the new song? I'm sure you have.
Man, yeah. It's funny. It's like the day it happens, there's just a hotbed of people like, I love it, I hate it, and it's like the only I didn't make a post, but I just want to post like, I love the Beatles.
Yeah. Period. Yeah.
Like, and it's more Beatles. I'm happy to hear that.
Bottom line, it's more Beatles. I had a lot of friends who were very negative about it, and I tried to keep an open mind. And by the end of the day, I really fell in love with it because it's very sad. It's a very sad song, and it has a fragility and a mortality about it. And I think it's grown on me immediately in a way that neither of the maybe production wise or whatever again, but I like those other previous last two singles. They were despite their Jeff Lynne detractors, but this is a song I don't know. People are like, oh, it's not as good as the demo. I think they did an interesting job in reconstructing that song into a really nice composition. Not about John and Yoko, but more about John and Paul, and I think that's why it's such a great final chapter in a way. It makes a fitting final thing for Paul to have had a hand in. It makes sense in a lot of ways, and there are things people are not going to like about it, obviously. But I think it's valid. I think it's a good song. Anyway, so we're running out of time yet once again. So I think we answered the question. You told me what you needed to tell me about the man, the legend. So, John Perrin, I love you. Thank you so much for doing this. All right. Well, there you have our second in a series about our man, Ringo Starr. Many thanks to my friends Mike Edison and John Perrin for weighing in. We'll follow this with our last Ringo episode featuring LA power pop drummer and author Steve Coulter and Rogue Wave drummer Pat Spurgeon. Please join us and see you next time on A Hard Day's Late Night with Ira. Bye, y'all.
It's a hard